a little context to what the podcast is. There's a serious shortage. I'm going to be a little less gloomy this time. There's a serious shortage.
No, I think you should highlight the gloom.
In young people joining the industry, the construction industry, that is. So what I want to do, what my goal is, and I know it's Romeo's part of his goal as well, is to attract people to the industry. We need to entice young people to get in, and that I think that involves showing them how and showing them what they can accomplish. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
By the way, this is Romeo Milano. He is the owner of Safe Tech Environmental.
Well, I'm a principal.
Sorry.
Environmental.
I do that every
Also,
time.
The other principals are Glenn Smith and Wes Henry.
Fantastic.
Since we've been around since 2004, but I also wear a different hat. I'm the chair of COCA, which is the Council of Ontario Construction Associations.
Okay.
And COCA, really, its main function is to lobby the provincial government to champion our causes in the construction industry. So you were talking earlier about labor and labor shortages and how we're doomed. But there's a good news message here. The government, and particularly the Ministry of Labor, so, the Ministry of Labor has changed its name. It's no longer the Ministry of Labor. It's got a very long name. It's the Ministry of, if I get this right, Labor, Training, and Skills Development and Immigration.
Wow. So why?
Because the Minister of Labor, Monty McNaughton,
Yeah.
has embraced our cause and is making strides to go out and increase apprenticeship programs and
Excellent.
to attract high school kids to the trades.
So this isn't involving any unions or anything. This is just that you're aware of, anyways.
Everything that the Ministry of Labor does
Yeah.
it in partnership with unions.
Okay, good.
The unions
Good.
are on board. They're on side.
Yep.
Obviously, it's in their best interest. They're going to
Of course it is.
They're going to increase
Absolutely.
their membership. Right?
Absolutely. I've had this discussion with, as you know, I own a company, Summit Access Solutions, which is a union company, and we are signatory to Local 27, well, in Toronto area, and other locals outside of Toronto. And I've had the discussion with them actually about possibly interviewing them, same topic. Just
the
how
only
do
way
we
you
get
get
kids
success,
in here?
you need to have buy-in by everybody.
Yes,
right.
That's
and
right.
The unions are a big player. We will not have success without them at the table. And that's only two parts of the puzzle. We got the government of Ontario. We have all our partnerships with the various union labor groups, but we need the federal government, because at the end of the day, immigration is controlled by the federal government. So I'm also involved with the Canadian Construction Association. I sit on a National Advisory Council for manufacturers, suppliers, and service providers, MS&S. And part of the mandate for CCA, Canadian Construction Association, is to lobby at the federal level to change immigration rules and laws to allow us to bring in more skilled people.
Fantastic. I like it.
So there's a groundswell.
Yep.
And part of the provincial government now, Ministry of Labor, is talking to the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
Because we want to bring these programs to the grade schools and high schools, like junior high,
Really?
high school.
Starting out that young. I love it.
And it is starting out that young, but also it's to awareness programs for parents. Because traditionally, parents do not want their children to go into construction because they have a negative connotation.
And that's one of the giant hurdles that we have to deal with.
Right. So the government, they're aware of it. They're on side.
Yeah.
How it plays out over the next 3, 4, 5 years, we'll see. But they are aware of it, and I think they're making strides to try to close that gap.
So let me ask you this question. The way I've kind of always seen it, and I've spent my entire life in construction. When I came up in construction, it was... I just happened to have a summer job, and that led me to ultimately where I am now, which has been okay. It wasn't when I was coming up anyways, you didn't plan to be in construction. It was kind of where you ended up. And I think that is one of the biggest issues, is that at least back then, it
I
wasn't
think that's
thought
true
of
for
as
everybody in all walks of life.
it wasn't thought of as a career. It was
I bet you
a job.
big number of everybody in society, 50%
Yeah.
plus, never went into these professions or wherever they're doing for a
Absolutely.
living because that's what they always wanted to do.
Yeah.
You stumble into it.
Yeah.
I stumbled into what I'm doing.
Well,
by
that
accident.
that is one of the questions I was going to ask
Like,
you.
I mean, I was like a lost little puppy
Yeah.
wandering the fields, the
Yeah.
meadows. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I had a friend that was in the consulting business. They needed help. And I was in between jobs.
So is that the only part of construction you've been in is the consulting side?
I've always been on the consulting side,
Yeah.
but catering to the construction, to the general contractor
Yeah,
world,
of course,
right?
yeah.
But you know, through this association with this friend of mine who got me into the business on a part-time basis just to help them out, ended up becoming my career.
So what you went to school?
After I started working with this company on a part-time basis, I became very passionate about it. So then I retrained myself and went back to school and took additional courses so that I became familiar with the
So you didn't go to
subject
school for it to begin
matter.
with.
I did not.
But you loved it so much you went back to school because of it.
My university degree is a Bachelor of Arts in Economics.
Yeah.
A far reach from construction.
I don't know if I know a single person that has a degree from university and actually works in that field.
Well, no,
But
many
anyways,
people do.
that's
Many people do.
other than engineers.
Yeah, many
Typically
people do.
engineers.
But
That I deal a lot
Having
with.
said that, a lot of people you end up just stumbling into. Like we have people in our office
Yep.
that trained to be marine biologists,
Is that right?
and now
Wow.
they're doing building science.
So
work. So
why?
why?
Because there wasn't work as a marine biologist?
Well, you had to move to a coast.
Fair.
COVID plays a major role.
Sure.
That mobility
Sure.
became limited.
Yeah.
Job opportunity came along. They tried it, and guess what? I love what I'm doing. So I want to retrain myself, and I want to do this. And that happens every day. And I think message to young people is you need to embrace change. You need to embrace any job that comes your way, and don't look at it as your final stepping stone. I had a young man, and part of a lot of the stuff that I do, my association, I went to St. Michael's College School, Bathurst and St. Clair, private boys' school, but I'm a mentor there. And the message I put out to the student community is like, if you want to go into my field, engineering, environmental engineering, my door's open. I will always give you the time of day. I will interview you. I'm not going to promise anybody a job, but at least I can point you in the right direction. And so a couple of things typically happen. They either come in and after I interview them, they say, well, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And they walk away.
I deal with it all the time.
And then a couple come in and they like what they hear and they want to pursue it.
Yep.
Right? But this one individual came in a couple of weeks ago, very bright young man. He has his master's degree, business administration. He wanted to get into something. He didn't know what.
Okay.
Didn't know what industry.
Fresh out of school.
Well, ish. Like,
Okay.
I mean, he's in his mid to late 20s.
Okay,
He's got
yep.
his, like I say, master's degree.
A kid.
He was like, he pursued hockey as a career for a while.
Oh, really?
Right? And I think he'd be a natural as a salesperson, right? Some sort of sales rep or customer relations of some sort. But he had no idea what industry to go in, and he was hesitant because he thought, if I take this job, I'm going to be tied to this industry or this profession for the rest of my. So he was very apprehensive of taking any job offer that came his way. And it's like, dude, you're a young man.
Interesting.
Try it out for a year. If you don't like it, you flip,
And-
go somewhere
and-
else. But at least you're gaining
So
experience
what
for that one
is
year.
it? Fear? Is it
Fear
fear
is
of
big.
wasting time or fear of getting stuck?
I think it's both.
I think part of the issue
But that's the wrong
here,
message, though.
Absolutely,
That's
and
the
this
wrong
and this is one of my
because
points.
you got nothing to lose. You have a good support. He's got a good family. He's
Yep.
got a good support system. So you try it out and you stumble. Who cares?
That's right.
Who cares?
That's right.
It's only a year. Big picture.
But
It's only a year.
That's
right.
But I think what we need, one of the messages we need to get across, is that just because you start one role in the industry, whether it be on the consultant side or on the side working with tools, just because you start in one part of it, you could start as a laborer, you could start as a marine biologist. You don't have to do that forever. There's a lot of stepping stones in this industry, and take myself for example. I started off sweeping floors. Like I swept construction site floors for a long time, and I didn't make a great hourly wage, but I worked as many hours as I could, And that's how I got started, and
That's
I
the key
just
in any
worked my
industry.
way up.
That's the key.
But I think that's what people don't, or the young people necessarily don't understand, is that that you can go a long way in this industry, and you can make a fabulous living.
Well, I tell young people all the time, if you put your head down and you work hard, don't worry. People are going to notice you. They will notice you because they'll say you're the hardest guy on the floor, right? You are the best broom sweeper they probably ever had, right? That stuff doesn't go through the cracks, right? And people notice, and you will move up, right? But you have to put the time in.
You do. You have to put the time. You have to put the effort. You have to. You just have to work hard. And as long as you have work ethic, that's very hard to teach that.
Well, it is
But
hard.
as long as you have
So I'll
that,
give
you
another
can.
little
The sky's the
another little
limit.
Story. About 10 years ago, I was talking to a high school group. So going back 10 years, TCA, we had a little traveling dog show going to all the high schools talking about promoting construction. So I talked to a group of grade 12s, 11 and 12s, and they were about to go on to college. And so we had an auditorium with a couple hundred kids there. And I did my PowerPoint presentation, and it was very interactive because they would scream out a job, and I would show them exactly what the job is, how many years it took to get to that position, and what your hourly
And
what
a salary.
Yeah, and your salary, what you started at, and what you could
I
be at
love
after
it.
5 years.
I love it.
They were all like so demoralized because they thought that right
it took
out of
too long to get there.
graduation, they expected making six figures.
Yes.
With not an ounce, not a
Yep.
day of work.
Yep.
And
I
so
absolutely
I said,
believe
yeah.
it.
I said, so then I kind of changed my pitch. I would point to kids in the audience. How much do you want to make? 100,000. Great. This is what you got to do, right? What do you want to go into, right? You want to be an architect. You want to be an estimator. And I would show them. I go, you can make up to 120. Great. Okay, but here's the hard part. Here's the road to get there, right? And that they didn't like. Because, and I tell my people when they start, this is a 5 to 10 year commitment, right? 5 years people might know you, but 10 years people will seek you out.
No one had to tell me that. I knew that. I knew that you don't start off with the highest paid job. You don't start off with the easiest job. You start off, it's the opposite. You start off the lowest paid with the hardest working. Why is that not common knowledge now? Is it just kids are coddled and no one tells them the
I was just about to
the
say
hard
that,
truth?
and I say I'm guilty of this.
Yeah.
Now I'm fortunate. I have 2 grown children that are professionals, but they were coddled, and I think that is on us as parents because we have more, we give them more, and maybe we don't make them aware of the hard work that's involved. They look at me and say, Dad, you're successful. Well, yeah, but Dad's been 60 plus years old. I didn't
Yeah.
get here overnight. When I was
Yeah.
20, I was looking for a meal.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So you gave me a little bit of your history. So you kind of basically fell into it, construction.
Everything that's happened in my
consulting.
life, I fall into
Yeah.
it.
I think that's one of the many things we have in common. That's why we get along so well. I know when I was working with tools and then as a superintendent, as a senior super, there was no work-life balance. It didn't exist
Zero.
for me. And that's because I did whatever the hell it took to get the job done. And no questions. I never asked, when do I get to go home? I knew when I got to go home. It's when my day's work is done and when the trades are gone. And so do you think it's gone too far the other way right now
So I'm going to say
that people
this.
don't want to work enough?
I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
There's no right answer to that
Okay.
question.
All right.
You and I came from the old school.
Yes.
We did whatever it took, work night and day, weekends.
That's right.
We sacrificed a lot. And I get emotional about it when I think about it because I wasn't there for a lot of my kids growing up. I wasn't there for a lot of, you're there for birthdays and stuff, but I didn't see a lot of my kids growing up because I'm always working. And so you can appreciate that. Today's generation or today's, new crop of workers, they come into it with demands and they want a better work-life balance. So who's right and who's wrong? I've had guys that I looked up to, my mentors, who've said to me at age 80, "Oh, you've done great with your life. I regret a lot. I have a lot of regrets. I regret that I worked too hard.
Yes.
And I wasn't there enough for my family."
Yeah.
So, for us to say, they don't work hard enough, and, we're a little bit critical of the
Is
newer
there a happy
generation.
medium, though?
I think you need to decide for yourself.
I know
Everybody
for
has
myself,
a different happy
I
medium.
worked out west for a summer. I was doing a pretty tough job that I was told to take over because it had gone sideways, and I was kind of that guy that took over the hard jobs and got them done. The West Coast mentality drove me insane. And it at first, I was pulling my hair out trying to get people to work. Then by the end, I honestly thought to myself, they're doing it right. Because they're not missing out on all of the shit outside of work. Sure, they may not be as successful, but what's success? Is it not simply not having regrets?
Well,
and I bet you the people I'm thinking about have a lot less regrets.
That could tell me they haven't had at least one regret in their
less
life.
regrets.
Yeah, less regrets, for sure.
There's some regrets I enjoy.
As I said earlier, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
Everybody makes that determination for themselves, and they make that decision whether they want to progress in a company or not. I think for us who manage these companies, we have to be able to recognize that, and we have to set up different groups, and you have to do it in advance. So who's going to work? Who would, I need help this weekend, or I need help this night in advance.
It can't be a demand.
Right? And they sign up for it, but there's got to be rewards. Right?
And I have no issue with rewards. I think there always should be rewards. I tend to think, and as an employer, it's not easy to deal with. It is, it's a different world. It is a completely different world right now, dealing with, it's a catchphrase, millennials. We've discussed it in person before. I've had issues, not as an employer, but when I was on site, with trying to deal with millennials at the time, and I had a hard time because night and day from the way I came up, and mine wasn't right. I worked too hard. I killed myself to get the job done, which is horrible.
But that was the mentality of the day.
It was the only way.
We were brought up.
It was the only way. Listen, I made $12 an hour, but I worked so many hours. I bought a condo and I bought a $50,000 truck, making $12 an hour. It's because I worked 120 hours a week. But then when it literally got me to where...
But it catches up to you, and you will.
Oh, it
and
does.
And you do burn out if you do that.
Hey, Rome, I'm only 28.
And you're burnt out already.
Kidding, I'm 48. No, I'm absolutely.
No, but you do. You burn out. You can't go at that pace forever. It's great to get established. You get established. You work blaze your trailblazer.
Is that the way it worked for you? You got established and then you stopped working so hard?
Just mail it in now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So couple of quick questions. What's your favorite thing about the construction industry?
I love the camaraderie.
Okay.
I
love that answer.
Because I like the social.
You've been reading my diary again.
Well, I like the socializing. I like to hear about challenges that everybody has. I like to be part of working on giving people tips or solutions to fix their challenges. That whole thing. It just, it's like a team, right? And I've always been on teams. I've never been a solo player like a tennis player. I've always played football or hockey. So I like working in a team to create opportunities and solve problems.
You were always that way?
Always
the team?
Always in the team. Always in the
Interesting.
team. I find that I work better in a team.
Yeah.
As
the leader?
Well, even a team has a leader.
Yes.
Right? There's a captain on every
But that's
team.
what I'm asking. Are you...
Well,
I know you are now, but did you always stand out? Taking on the leadership role.
I would say if I had to describe myself coming up in the ranks, I would call myself a soldier. I was a warrior. I would go into the trenches. I carry out my orders and whatever it took, right? And so you need that hierarchy in an organization.
Sure, you absolutely do.
But you have to buy into the philosophy.
So when did you become the general?
Well, we
Was
became
it
collective generals.
Did it just happen,
Well,
or
no,
was it a gradual
it-
thing?
I was happy being a soldier. Just the company that I was at was having internal strife amongst the owners. So me and my current partners, Glenn and Wes, we all worked at the same place. We just decided that we're going to try our own company because we weren't happy with the situation. So we just left and started our own company.
Interesting.
But
I hear it all the time.
But everything that we do is by consensus.
Yeah.
Right. And
Good. Well, that's the way it's got to be.
Listen, we've survived 18 years partnership, and it's because there's mutual respect for the other's consideration. So if two partners wanted to do something and the third partner didn't like it, we wouldn't do it. We would have to be unanimous.
Legally, you can probably,
legally
per your
we could do it, of
contract, you
course.
could.
For us,
two
it
out of
wasn't
three.
worth
Yeah.
the stress
Sure.
and the anxiety
Yep.
to oppose. So it was like we're all either all in or we're not. And I think that's what, we've been successful. We'd probably be 10 times larger if we were a little more aggressive. But we're happy with the progress.
what
It's
cost,
been organic over the years. And at what cost?
At what
exactly.
cost?
So it's been a formula that's worked for us.
Yeah. So all that stemmed from what your favorite thing about the construction industry, the obvious follow-up, is what's your least favorite thing?
My least favorite is people not taking ownership for stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You got to own it.
Yeah.
You mess up, own it. I've had to stand up at almost naked with a fig leaf because I owned it. I'm taking responsibility. You let the chips fall. Don't point fingers or blame somebody else for your fuck up.
I wear it as a badge of honor.
Right.
I fucked up. That's it. I fucked up.
But that's
and
my
there's nothing
biggest-
wrong
that's
with
my
that.
biggest
But
peeve.
that comes down to confidence and confidence in your employer that you're not going to get fired. People,
It's funny,
people
I had
in
this
my
conversation with one of my guys
people in
came
my
into my
company
office.
know.
Yes, Monday.
Yeah.
I have a meeting with one of the department heads every Monday, and he came in and he says, "I fucked up
Yep.
bad." And he tells me the story, and I just, Jesus
Oh, yeah.
Christ. It's like, okay, dude.
But it's better to find out that way
Well,
than
I said, listen, it's your reputation,
yes.
right? Because he's
Yeah.
a professional. He's a professional engineer.
Yeah.
I said, but own it
Yep.
and learn from it.
Yep.
Right?
That's right.
And it'll make you a better engineer, a better person.
But if you were a different style employer that came down on people when they fuck up and abused them and screamed and yelled, he wouldn't have come to you. So a big part of it is that you've instilled in your employees that it's okay. We'll get through it. Sure, it costs money.
Well,
it
at
sucks,
the end of the day,
but it is what it is. and
listen,
I hate that saying. It is what it is.
Well,
but
any fuck up in the company, I own, regardless.
that's right. That's right.
And yelling and screaming is not going to fix the problem.
No.
And
But
you
you-
could
but you've
potentially
been through
lose a
that.
very good employee.
That's right.
Why would you take
As you
it?
should.
Yeah.
You should lose them.
I don't.
If you're a tyrant.
Right.
No.
But like I say, he's a good worker, and I have no hesitation. I think it was a good teaching moment. It wasn't the end of the world, but learn from your mistakes and off we go.
My experience is typically mistakes. It's money. It costs money, and as much as I enjoy money, that's why we're in business. Ultimately, is to make
listen,
a living.
You know as well as I do.
But
we eat a lot on jobs.
oh my God,
Sometimes we eat.
it's terrifying.
More than we earn.
Oh yeah, I don't even like looking at the job balances often because I don't want to know sometimes. As long as we're profitable, I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts all the time because sometimes it's deflating.
Right, but those are learning points, right?
Absolutely.
They're all teaching points.
Absolutely.
So, we like to do post-analysis on all our projects and where could we have done better? Where did we mess up, right? And,
Oh, yeah. I mean,
because
you
those
have
are
to
teaching
do
points
that.
for the younger staff
That's
as
right.
well, right.
That's right. That's right.
So it's important.
Who's the most influential person in your life?
Wow.
In two aspects, in life and in construction.
So in my personal life, there's 3 people I would say that had the most, well, maybe 4 people, or 3 people in an institution. So obviously my father was a big influence on me because he's a very moral, ethical man, and came from nothing and made something of himself. He came as an immigrant from Italy and made something of himself. So it's a point of pride, but also you learn a lot from that. There was a family friend, Joe Paluzzo, who was kind of like my sponsor. When you grow up Catholic, you have to become confirmed at 14. So he was.
I just did it with my boy on the weekend.
Okay, so you're familiar with that.
Yes.
So he was my sponsor.
Believe it or not, I'm Catholic.
He was a big influence in my life to have fun. He was always a guy who always joking, have fun. My dad was always
Wonderful.
a serious guy.
Yep.
So this guy Joe would always he had a son about my age, so he would always take me to like Argo games, roller skating,
Nice.
stuff that I would never have been exposed to if it wasn't for him. So he opened up my eyes to a lot of things, the fun side of life. And then I had a friend whose dad was influential of me, very influential in the Italian community. His name is Consiglio Danino. He became a senator.
Really?
For the government of Canada. And he's another guy who came from nothing and became a banker and was big in the community. He volunteered. He was like the top guy at the Boy Scouts of Canada. And in the Italian community, he was a big volunteer, did a lot of fundraising. And so he was very influential in my life as to guiding me to, there is something beyond, right? You can get a career, but you also give back to community. And then the final big influential piece in my life as an institution is my high school, St. Mike's.
St. Mike's.
Where at the time it was run by mostly priests. It was maybe 50% priests, 50% lay teachers. Now there's no more priests. There's a priest who's at the helm as the president of the school, but all the teachers, because there's no more priests, they're all dying off. In this particular order, the Congregation of St. Basil, which was a teaching order who came from France in 1852 and started the school for Irish immigrants who needed guidance in Toronto. And anyhow, that institution taught me to, I believe, turned me from a boy to a man. And I'm still involved with the school to this day. I volunteer whenever I can. But that institution, there were a couple of priests in particular that stood out who have since passed away. Father Zinger and Father Volpe were very influential in my life and keeping me on the straight and narrow, as
nice
it were.
To hear.
Right.
I like that.
And on the professional side,
Yep.
I would say a big influencer for me, you're going to laugh, I would say is John Mollenhauer.
I knew where that was going. As soon as you said I'm going to laugh. I get it.
Well,
I mean,
here's
listen.
a guy who's had a roller coaster of a life.
Oh, yeah.
So at
He's
one
been through it all.
point, he was at the helm of Mollenhauer Construction,
Yes.
which at the time was larger than PCL.
Wow.
And the roller coaster ride that he went through to bankruptcy and reinvent himself, and now as president of the TCA. But honestly, the most knowledgeable construction man, and his mind is so analytical. I've learned.
And he's a hell of a person.
Great guy, great
Yes.
humanitarian. And I would say this, we joke a lot about him, but if you ever were in crisis,
Yep.
he'd drop everything and be by
Sure.
your side.
Sure.
And not too many human beings are like that.
No, unfortunately, that's not the default. It really isn't.
So he's one of the biggest guys on the professional
Wow.
side.
Does he know that?
I think, in a sense, he kind of
I mean,
does.
I know we don't say these things
Yeah,
to people.
guys don't talk to each other that way. I love you, brother.
Oh, we do if we're drunk.
Yeah, we do if we're drunk, right?
Oh, shit. So, what are we doing about labor shortages? I know we already touched on it, but what, and I'm not talking...
Well, there's one big missing
this.
piece.
I cannot find people. The union finds them for me, but what I
Right.
need to hire for my non-union positions, buddy, I put ads on all of the websites, and the thing that drives me the most insane is people apply for a job, I go through their resume, and this is one thing that sometimes I do myself. I go through the resume, I send them a message to call, and they just don't. They just don't.
Right. So
Because they're simply
clarify
applying
for me.
for
Clarify
jobs.
what are non-union positions?
My yard positions, order pickers and truck drivers, and because we're a scaffold company that builds union, the carpenters, but our non-union positions are anything on my property.
I see.
Yeah. It's impossible.
Well, it is impossible.
Where'd everyone go?
So they're out there.
No, but where'd they go?
Well,
COVID happened.
no, don't forget, there's over 1 million jobs going unfilled as we speak.
No, but this is what I'm saying. Where did everyone go?
Well, it's easier to stay at home and collect.
But what are
subsidy.
they collecting?
Well, now that the
They're not collecting anything
CERB is
anymore.
over now.
But why can I still not? I still can't hire anyone.
There's a few factors. It could be the pay scale, right?
Oh yeah, I've had to increase everything.
Right.
Which I understand. Listen, the cost of living has gone up.
Have you
dramatically.
used placement companies?
I do now, yes.
And have you had better success
I've
with
had
placement
much
companies?
better success because Heather, who I deal with, she can put the time into it.
Well, and they know how to
And it's
ask
her job.
but they know how to ask the right
That's
questions.
right. That's right.
Like they say, we own the companies, but
Yeah.
we couldn't interview to save our lives.
No,
right?
no. I'll interview like a high level of position, but
even at high level,
probably terrible at it.
I put all those applicants through profile tests.
Yeah.
They have to sign up. So we use this company
Oh,
called.
you do?
Yeah, we use a
Okay.
company called Thomas International.
Yeah.
Thomas does a personality
Yep.
test and an aptitude test.
A bunch of
Right, and
abstract questions.
They're weird
and
questions.
Math questions.
They're not even math. They're just weird stuff.
I went through it with one
But there's an
company that I
aptitude
worked for.
test and
And
there's
it
a
was strange.
personality test, and they're pretty damn accurate. I'm quite impressed with it. And it costs you about $350 to do both tests, but I think it's money well spent because everybody's nice. But at the end of the day, you want a right
especially
fit.
in an interview.
Well, but you want a right fit with your culture,
Yes.
right? With the
Yeah.
people in your company.
Yeah.
So that will help determine if they're going to be a right fit.
Okay.
Right? And when we do a profile for a position, we kind of hatch it out before we interview. So we sit down with Thomas, and okay, what are your wish lists? And the profile. So one of my first things I insist in everybody that has as a quality is to have a sense of urgency.
Yes.
Everybody
that's
forgets
missing.
that. Everybody
It's
forgets that.
missing.
No one asks that. It's like when you're given a task, the sense of urgency, it's got to be done yesterday.
Yes. Yep.
If you have that
Not
mind-
all the time, because everything can't be a fire
Right.
alarm.
But if you have
But
that
when it matters,
mindset,
yes.
it's amazing the quality of work that you get
Yes.
out of people. So they build that into the profile.
Yeah.
And it comes up with some sort of abstract, and then when
So
you
they find that out without asking that.
it's a graph.
It's a
so when
bunch
the
of
people
different
write
shit
the
that they
tests,
ask. Yeah.
a graph, then you compare it to your profile.
Wow.
It's a perfect match.
Interesting.
Right? Or they're way off.
like that.
Now, having said that, we've hired people that were not a perfect match, and they've still worked out.
Okay.
But
So it's not a pass or fail.
No, not at
Okay.
all. No, and
Just gives you an idea.
It just you
a
want to
little
know who
look
the person
inside.
is, and then you're gonna forgive. I can live without
Yeah,
that.
okay,
I can,
okay.
she's a good person. I
Yeah.
can live without that.
Okay.
We'll let that, but it doesn't have to be a perfect match.
Yeah.
But it's a great tool to help you assess.
I might get you to send me some info on that
Okay.
for the management
For the
positions.
management
I'm
positions,
guessing,
for
not
sure.
yeah, for sure. So, if you had a group of kids here that were thinking they're just coming near the end of their high school education, and they're tossing around ideas, and I went through it with my kids, and I'm sure you did as well. Do I go to university? Do I go to college? Do I go to college and learn a trade? Do I join a union? I know it obviously it's per kid. It's totally different for each kid. But if you're talking to a group, what's your suggestion?
Well, I think if you mean how do I steer kids to
Yes.
construction, I think if I wait till grade 12, it's too late.
Oh, I like that.
We have
Well said.
we have to plant the seed in junior high, grade 7, grade 8, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. Plant the seed as, hey, when you open up a book, they always talk about a doctor, engineer, lawyer. Why not carpenter? Why not scaffold builder? Why not, whatever? If it's planted at that level, by grade 11, grade 12, they're thinking about different things. And I think that's where the disconnect has been since the beginning of time with us.
So let me ask you this, and this is actually something I've considered. I've thought about taking this on the road to job sites and cornering, probably pre-planned, but cornering the foreman of individual trades and talking to them and saying, because I think this is part of the conversation, unfortunately, is what kind of toys do you have? Do you have a cottage? Because I know they all do. Do you have a boat? Do you have sports cars? Do you have? Because I think that is part of it. I think there's a common misconception that you don't make a ton of money, and not that it should matter, but it does. The reality is it does. I've been throwing around that idea. What do you think of that? Do you think it's stupid to or silly to get into
so that people that hear the message saying, well, here's the guy who's a site guy, but he's got a house with a pool, or he's got listen, it's funny. I remember like 20 years ago, I was at a school where there were pipe covers. They're insulating pipes, and they didn't work on Fridays. He goes, no, I'm going to be at my pool on Friday. So here's the guy, and that was a perfect example where I thought, this guy's just an insulator. But he had a big house with a big pool, right? He had all the toys he wanted, and he was happy. He was content, right? So, yeah, that's probably a great idea.
I think that's part of the conversation. I think, listen, I remember one very specific scenario. I was at TD Center downtown, the black buildings. I was working for the largest construction company in Canada.
I was a site super.
Yeah, I was a site super, and I was in the elevator, and you know the TD Center, it's all banks, it's all bankers,
and lawyers.
And I was, yeah, that's right, yeah, I was in the elevator, and so I'm a superintendent for a very large construction company. I made a pretty good pay. My salary was good, and I'm wearing high vis, and I'm wearing dirty work boots and a hard hat. And I was on the elevator, and this young banker guy came on in his couple of $1,000 suit, and he looked at me. He was younger than I was, but he looked at me like I was in the elevator picking up dog shit. And I wanted to say to him so bad. I didn't, because I would have gotten shit for it. I wanted to say to him, do you understand I probably make 4 times the money you make? Because he was a young banker, and he was probably making 40 or 50 grand a year.
And it probably was a $199 suit.
Yeah, that's right. And a leased BMW and a rental condo downtown. And it's all smoke and mirrors. But the look that I got, like, you dirty construction, and this is what we need to get away from.
Well, that's a misconception, because everybody assumes that anybody who works in a tower makes money.
That's
the
right.
reality is, I would say 80%.
Well, now they're at the bottom, I think.
80% of that building population is just barely scraping by.
Because they're living above their means. That's part of it.
They're living above their means, or even if they're living within their means, they have nothing.
Yeah.
They have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, that's right.
And the assumption is because you wear a suit and you work in an office, you make money.
Yeah.
And that's so untrue.
Oh my God.
Right.
So, short answer: how do you get to where you are? Give me the Coles notes. How do you become? How do you get a position?
Three. It takes 3 things.
Okay.
You need a little luck.
Yes.
A lot of hard work, and you need your family support. Can't get there by yourself. You know how they say it takes a village? Honestly, to get any person that's had any measurable success has definitely had all those 3 things.
You are absolutely right. I've done okay for myself, and I would be in a ditch if it wasn't for my family. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have made it, because that's my backbone. I got nothing without my fabulous wife, and just she takes care of me. Not in the old school sense of she is my backbone. She truly is.
Well, your partner's your cheerleader.
Yes.
When when we started the business,
Yeah.
It was tough starting a business from scratch.
Oh yeah.
But
it is.
But
it is not fun.
She was encouraging me and supporting me.
Yep.
And
she sounds a lot like mine.
To have that in your corner,
Yes.
it's one less thing to worry
I
about.
can't imagine
right?
doing it without that in your corner.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it. Anyways, I think I've taken up more than enough of your time. I don't know if you have anything you want to say, but I've got my.
Well, no,
I got
this
what
is
I
fun.
wanted.
It's been fun. I wish you success
really
with the
thank
podcast.
You.
I hope
Thank
this takes off for you.
Thank you. It could be the last one ever, but you never know.
Well,
we'll see. We'll see.
I'll come back season 2 if you'll have me.
If I'm still around. All right, buddy. Thank you, my
all
friend.
The best. Cheers.
Let's go have a beer.
That's